in Florida. And I went in and I said, I'm going to Florida for the winter. And so I said, okay. I said, I can work out of Florida. I can fly back and forth. I go to Tampa.
Didn't you have your own private jet by this point?
No. Well, they did have. They were flying.
They've got it on reserve
Yeah.
for Tom.
But I fly out of Tampa 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I could be in here and make it into the office usually by 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
What?
And I get all my information I wanted. Anything I needed, I would wrap up. Any drawings I had made, I'd go over those with the draftsman, tell him what I wanted drawing, and then I get on a plane. And I think it's probably around 8:30, and fly back to Tampa, and I'd be home by 12 or 12:30.
Tom Smith, original jet setter, right here.
Yeah, so I did that when I was on different jobs, but I could work out of that, and that worked out fine. The last job I did was interesting in that a blast furnace in it used to be Youngstown Sheet and Tube, but then it was somebody bought them out. Can't think of their name. Anyway, the blast furnace, as you feed the material, the blast furnace has a skip that brings material up. And at the top of the blast furnace, you have a top ring. And top ring may be 10 feet around up there. And they feed all the material, the iron ore, the coke, the limestone, everything goes in through the top ring in a blast furnace. And the blast furnace, as it comes down, all this coke and whatnot is in there, is cooking it. And as it comes down, it cooks it, turns it into pig iron, and goes down. And to keep it going, they have what they call a twir jacket, where they're shooting hot air in there, real hot air.
Like one of those
yeah,
things?
yeah. And they have it all around the base of it. So that to cooking. But as they come down, in order to keep the steel, they have insulation, and they'll put in brick insulation, probably 2 foot insulation. But as you're dropping this stuff down, it erodes the insulation. So the insulation gets thinner and thinner. As it gets thinner, the shell on the outside gets hot. When a shell on the outside gets hot, it starts to lean. So the last job, it was leaning over 10 inches at the top. So the contract we had was to bring it back to normal, so the lip ring is over the twir, and put a section in, a Bosch section, new shell, cut out the shell, put a whole new shell, and not all of it, but just the one that was buckled. And so I looked at it one way, and when we bid it, I looked at it, and I had anticipated doing a little different. I was thinking more of where you're out by that lake, and the soil isn't that good. So I was thinking of driving either a caisson, 4 caissons down for support, and build up off that to catch it. And I says, well, there's an existing foundation in there that's holding it up now. I'm going to get all the drawings I can, and I'll work around the drawings and see if I can use the existing foundation. Well, I had worked for this company, Youngstown Sheet and Tube, since probably in the end of the 50, 58, 59. So I knew all the guys, and I knew the chief engineer. I knew all the draftsmen. So I went over to the engineering department. I says, I'm bidding on this job, but I'd like to go through your files, all your drawings on this particular blast furnace, and I want to pull out what I need. And they said, no problem. And so I sat there one day and I went through everything, and I came up with a roll of print. I probably came up with probably about 25, 30 drawings.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to include any piping or everything around the base that I could work. So I came up, I got that, and I said, okay, here's my address in Florida. Mail it down to me in Florida. And so they mailed me down all these drawings, and I sat in the front bedroom. I put up my card table there. I had a phone there. Had everything I needed. I had 2 beds on either side that I can throw the drawings this way or that way. So I went through all those drawings and came up with the idea, okay, here's what we're going to do. I was able to work a support, 2 supports on this side, 2 supports on that side, 2 here and 2 here. I was able to get those in. And they ended up being 80 feet high. Now, they were on the cast house floor. And so, in order to get it down to the foundation, I had to go under the cast house floor and support the foundation that was put in. It wasn't a foundation. Actually, it was only a 24 by 22 inch plate. But I had to get on there underneath it and transfer the load from our structure there into the foundation. So I worked around that, working through all the steel on the cast house floor, got that done, and I braced everything and went up above, and I put a platform in at 70 feet. And then I found out on a blast furnace they have a platform up here, and the platform has kickers going down into the shell. Yeah, coming down. And there was probably, I think there was 2 here, 2 here. So I think it turned out to be 8 kickers coming down. I said, okay. I checked that out, seeing if I could hold it by those outriggers. Checked the steel out that I could hold them out there. So what I did is I went from the jacks. I put the jacks in, and we have 300 or 400 ton jacks on this platform that I had built on the bottom structure. I put that in, and I put a rolling frame on top of them, and then when I came down, I landed on the jacks, support on the jacks, and all the structure that went around was another structure. I braced it. I put struts in around it, and I braced it around it.
Oh, okay.
So I tied it up pretty tight, and that was fine.
Does the shell have buck stays on the outside?
Pardon?
Does the shell have like buck stays? You know?
It was still buckled down below. We haven't done anything with the shell yet.
Oh, okay.
So we built them on an angle because it was leaning. So you had to tell the guy now. The guy called up in the middle of the night. He says, I can't get your steel to work out. Your bracing to work out. I said, you got it on an angle? Uh-oh, he says, okay. I says, it's going to be tilted like the furnace because it's tied into the furnace. And as we pick it up, it'll straighten out. So the next morning when he said, yeah, everything connected. So we were all set, and I says, now because of the wind at Michigan, Lake Michigan, I had introduced tie-down bolts, that 2-inch bolts that I could hold in case the wind came, it wouldn't tip over. It wouldn't have tipped over anyway. But you get a lot of these company guys look at it and say, "What's holding that down? It may blow over or might." So I took care of all that. I said, "Okay, we're ready to jack. Now everybody go in on your bolts and loosen up the bolts, because we're gonna jack and it's gonna change this thing. Now make sure you loosen the bolts up." Okay, so we're going. They're jacking.
Like, how many guys are working on this? Like a team of like.
I don't know. You only need a couple guys at each jack, and we had 8 jacks. But anyway, they start jacking up, and I get down and I'm having a cup of coffee. The guy, they called up, "Hey, come on up here, we got a problem." Okay, so I climb up. The shell is buckling. Instead of a round shell, it's kind of like an oval.
Oh, no.
And I says, check all the bolts. So they checked all the bolts. They found some stupid guy again, didn't back off on the bolts. So we're tied in on the bolts. And I says, well, we had gone so far, and I said, forget about it. We'll try it without it. We'll just keep an eye on it. And we had a guy down there cutting, and they had cut clear around, and he only had about 10 feet of shell to finish up. I says, you have a guy stand by with you, and you keep a good eye on it, and do it slow. And when you do it slow, if it starts to move, it's going to move slow. It won't bounce too much for you. But anyway, they cut it. When they cut it, it went boom, and all the dust in the whole building in here comes down. You couldn't see.
Really?
Yeah. And you look down, and guys down below were running out like ants running. So it turned out, once it settled, cut the dust out of the way, we were free. So the first thing we did is we jacked up, and we got it so the top of the furnace was upright. It was plumb. And then the way I had jacked it, I had my jack set up. I could jack it sideways, so I jacked it sideways this way to get it over the ring. Then I jacked it the other way and jacked it back over that. And it didn't take long. I used, usually I used to use STP. I just, between the steel plates, put steel plates down and just take STP, which is, oh yeah. Well, it was thick. It's like gum.
Oh, okay.
And so I was able to push it one way, push the other way, got it lined up. We had down below, we had a gun down there that was, it's not a laser. What do you call those guns nowadays? A light gun. Are they lasers or what?
Yeah, for the most part.
What they are?
Yeah.
We had it shot up. So they shot up, met their target, until we were over that. We were done the job. I went home and back to Florida.
Got on your jet.
No, but I've been on our jet. We've had, we use a Learjet or a Gulfstream. Gulfstream is a little one. A Learjet is a little bigger. A
Probably out of Allegheny or Pittsburgh.
Yeah. A Learjet, it's a nice plane, and they usually have sandwiches and beer or something for us. But on a Learjet, we came out of Lexington, Kentucky, and one of the guys says, how steep does this Learjet climb? He says, I'll show you when we take off. So you're sitting like this here, and we're taking off, and
Engineers on the plane, bad.
All of a sudden,
Bad.
you're looking up like this. He goes up pretty good.
They brought the extra seatbelts in for that one.
The Gulfstream was a nice plane. The Learjet was a little bigger, had more room. The Gulfstream, it would take 7, but the 7 guy, I think the 7 guy had to sit in the toilet.
Yeah, he's all right back there.
Yeah,
Strap in, buddy. Here we go.
yeah. I've had all kind of experiences, different jobs.
Seems like it.
Yeah. Had a guy try to throw me off a 35-foot platform in Chicago. Had guns shot in our trucks.
Down in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever tell Keena the story down in Texas when they were throwing the bolts at you? When you were walking
Oh, that
around?
was St. Louis.
That was St. Louis.
They were throwing
Yeah.
bolts at